So I used to work all around the country, and I was an absolute regular at the Costa coffee chain of shops. It was my drink of choice. Short black Americano, extra shot. And through the day, I'd go in numerous coffee shops up and down the country. And my work took me all over the United Kingdom. So one day I go into a coffee shop many miles from home that I'd never been in before in my life. And whilst I'm queuing up, waiting to order my small black Americano extra shot, a hand reached out, and even though I was at the back of the queue, the cup was placed down in front of me. So my name's Mike Dawson. I'm the author of Quit Your Diet, Think to Shrink. And if you're done with meal plans, calorie counters and sins, then you might be exactly in the right place, because I'm here to help you build a 14-day escape plan to quitting diets forever. So sign up to my website as a member now. It's absolutely free and always will be free to you if you jump on pretty soon before I close off that kind of free membership. Members get access to all the free downloads, tools, audio files, as well as exclusive invites to our group coffee mornings. There's also a 12-question quiz around here somewhere that's going to help you determine what level you're at in your weight loss journey, and of course, then offer you a series of advice. I've spent decades working with people facing real change, deep trauma, emotional challenges. I'm not Sigmund Freud, and I'm not a psychologist, but I am someone who has helped thousands of people step into meaningful changes using powerful, practical tools that have worked for millions of people. My journey into the diet culture started by accident. I was seconded into a program working with morbidly obese people. I was supposed to be the motivator, but actually it turned out very, very different, certainly as far as I was concerned. As the author of a book that asks people to use powerful tools to make changes in their day-to-day lives, to build on their own strengths and resources, how has any of that worked for me? That was a question that came up that I had to answer. After all, if you want to work with a millionaire guru, you would expect that he may well have experienced some of the stuff he's going to talk to you about. And when I stopped just for a few seconds and thought about this, I was personally surprised. I really was. It was just incredible that I could start listing these things. Some of these things aren't that impressive, some are, like giving up sugar in my tea. But it also included giving up biting my nails after gnawing them for years. I also quit caffeine, as I've just explained, an absolutely dedicated habit of mine. And I transitioned to a plant-based diet overnight. I also eliminated a very progressive smoking habit, and I have also quit alcohol for good, forever. I've not touched a drop of alcohol for, I think it's about 5 years now. I've lost really count. It doesn't really interest me. It was about 5 years. All of this stuff passed me by without me really realizing. And yes, it didn't all happen at once. It was spread out over a period of time. It made me think about maybe doing a video about each of these things and whether any of these tools actually appear in my program. And that wouldn't be on purpose. It would be because just realizing that I'd used them at the time. So I told a story at the beginning about my trip to Costa several times a day. And it turns out that on that day, a member of staff at one of my local Costas had actually moved house, relocated, and she hadn't been there long when in walks one of her regular customers, and she knew exactly what I was having: small black Americano, extra shot, and it appeared in front of me. And I'm not even sure if that was an earlier indicator of my caffeine addiction was out of control. But I did nothing. I did nothing for years. So these following episodes, they're designed to answer a question or two for me. Could I share some uncommon advice about these changes and addictions? And secondly, have I applied them into my book, Quit Your Diet, which of course materialized years later? So it's true, I didn't quit any of these through kind of willpower alone. After all, I'm in the change business. I used a handful of tools and mind tricks that genuinely rewired my habits. So let's break them down, starting with probably the softest and the least impressive. Sugar. I used to take two or three sugars in my tea. Very, very sweet. It was only years later that I learned that anything more than 2 sugars in your tea is a waste of time because it can't absorb that much sugar. It falls to the bottom of the cup. But that's a side issue. And my method of quitting the sugar, I don't even remember that my intention was to quit sugar, but I just kept toning it down until it became ridiculous. People would say, how many sugars do you say? I'd say a quarter. And then sometimes I would say, oh, just a little sprinkle, And then eventually I said, I don't take sugar. And that was really a long weaning process. And I really don't know whether, in honesty, that was the intention, but that's what happened. Then there was nail biting. Now, this was completely endemic. And if I can tell you now that it took me 20 minutes to do a technique once, many, many years ago, that might get your attention. And this is the truth. Okay. Nail biting was a habit of mine. It ran really, really deep. I'd just gnaw away. I'd get deeper and deeper and deeper. And everyone I knew spent a lifetime telling me to please stop. Teachers, parents, friends. But I just couldn't. So I read a book by Anthony Robbins, and in it he talked about an NLP technique called swish technique. And it's in my book, and we use it as part of the book and the course. Obviously, you can grab a copy of that around here somewhere. And in the members area, I'll give you a full breakdown of the swish technique and how you can do it. But here's the outline idea. Biting our nails is a subconscious decision. We don't really think about it. We just sit there and do it. And this seems to be the problem because we're not thinking about it. It seems to bypass our conscious mind. So in brief, here's the swish idea that I used. And you'd have to get the PDF to get the full thing. But basically, you imagine 2 photographs. And these 2 Polaroid images are the last thing that you see before you bite your nails and the thing you want to see. Okay, so mine was this. The last thing I saw was that. It was just that. It was my hand going into my mouth. What I wanted to see, for me, was doctor's hands. I always admired when I went to the doctor and you would see his hands were scrubbed clean, his nails were nice and clean and all nicely manicured. It just looked nice. And plus I was about to work with young people in a children's home. We were going to be involved in cooking food for the kids and things like that. And I really felt that I wanted to give this a go. So I did. It was incredible. I stopped biting my nails overnight after 20 minutes. So I've got instructions for the swish technique within this video somewhere, or you can find it in my members area as a download. It's dead simple to do. You can even find how to do the swish online. It's an NLP technique. Then there's caffeine. Now, caffeine, I've seen loads of videos about what caffeine does to us, how hard it is to quit. And I've never really related to that. I've seen people say, oh, they went dizzy after a month without caffeine and had one and all that kind of thing. I know there was a story in the paper about a young girl who got a job at a coffee shop and she didn't realize that caffeine was a drug and she loved the taste. And so she was all day knocking back espressos and she ended up being hospitalized. So there's all sorts of opinions about coffee. I've even read recently, which has been a big influence on me, that having a coffee in the morning does have quite a few chemical benefits. However, I didn't personally go with this idea of how hard it was. And here's a private joke that I used to have. I used to say to people who talked about it, look, I can put this coffee cup down now, walk away, and never, ever have a coffee again. Sometimes the voice in my head would say, well, why don't you? And I would go, yeah, but not now. Another time. And that's what it was like. I felt I could give it up. However, I never really got round to it until recently, about 6 months ago. I ran down my coffee and ended it cold turkey. Here's the thing. I did surprisingly go on to caffeine free, in a coffee machine, and actually found it was okay. And I carried on with this ritual of drinking the coffee, smelling the coffee, and virtually having no caffeine for a while. And I don't think there was ever a positive or a negative buzz. I didn't feel any negative effects for giving up coffee. That's just me personally. One thing I have noticed, and this relates to what I talk about in my book, is not being afraid of your nemesis. Okay, I'm not terrified anymore of coffee. I'm a cyclist, and occasionally I'll stop and I will have a coffee if I'm out and about. I don't buy it. I've got one in the house if you come round for a coffee. This could be a really good example. If you've got a food, or you have a bad day, or you eat or drink something that you feel like you shouldn't have, then don't be frightened of that. Move on, call it quits, and carry on. That's my biggest lesson from the caffeine thing. Not being afraid of our nemesis, not feeling that there's failure. And I always say sometimes getting wasted on alcohol is probably a really good night out. Doing it 3 or 4 times is probably an amazing weekend. Doing it for a week is probably, wow, one hell of a holiday. But beyond that, we have to start to question those failures and the effects they're going to have. So that's what the view I always take when it comes to quitting. There you go. Those are the easier ones. And what I would say is, I have a favorite saying, and I've heard it so many times. Just have one won't harm you, and one won't do any harm. And I always say, it started with one. It started with one. No matter how much alcohol I've drunk, it started with one. No matter how many cigarettes I smoked, it started with one. And I always find that really powerful for me. Okay, so what have I learned from those earlier, lower level quitting exercise? Firstly, it's obvious that the swish technique, applied in the right way, I would highly recommend for turning unconscious actions into conscious actions. Because as soon as you see that, you see the doctor's hands, and oh, right, okay, don't do that. Also, don't be afraid of your enemy. A bad day's a bad day. Don't have 2 or 3 on the trot, and don't feel bad about the dropped ball, or the dropped cake, or the dropped coffee. Just move forward. Now, if any of that is of interest to you, then this next video certainly will be. But please be kind enough to take half a second to lightly tap the like button. It means so much to me, and of course it means that these ideas get shared with other people just like you. In the next video, we're going to move into quitting booze forever and cigarettes forever, both of which I quit many years ago. Never went back, have no interest in really going back. I hope there's some useful kind of off-piste ideas that I can share with you, not just the general kind of advice, because things did work a little bit differently for me. My name is Michael Dawson. I'm the author of Quit Your Diet, and all the downloads I mention in these episodes are freely available in the members area of my website. If you sign up soon before I quietly close the door, you will become a legacy member, and as such will never pay. So it's a great time to jump on board. Not least, you'll be invited to our live coffee mornings, where we can chat and learn together about building our personal 14-day escape plan to quitting diets forever. There's also a link around here to my 12-question quiz that's to help you determine your levels of change as we go forward, and you design an escape plan to quit your diet forever. Click and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and to ensure that more videos like this by myself and others occasionally will pop into your virtual algorithm. Thank you for being there, and I'm going to see you in the next episode.